Hello and welcome back to the channel. Today we're going to go over 10 new infinite or instant win combos with Avatar, The Last Airbender, Magic the Gathering set. Super excited for this set. It's one of my favorite shows of all time, so really excited to jump into some of the previews for this set. Now some of these combos are standard legal and some of them are commander or older formats legal, so just keep that in mind as we go through them. Let's go through the first one. This one I posted on my socials as well. This is with the new Firebending student. Very powerful card in my opinion. 2 mana for a 1/2 human monk with prowess, and it says Firebending X, where X is the creature's power. Now Firebending is a new mechanic. If you don't know what this does, whenever the creature attacks, it adds a certain amount of red mana to your mana pool that you can only use during combat. Now, if you have a bunch of instants in your deck, then it's not too much of a problem because you can cast all those instants during combat with the extra mana. But with the Firebending student, you get a ton of mana because you can pump its power and get even more mana. So for example, if you play this on turn 2, on turn 3 you can attack with it, play the Dreadmaw's Ire, which will give it +2/+2. It also trigger prowess, so its power will go up to 4. It also gives it trample. And then you can play bulk up on it with your second and third mana, and then its power will go up to 10 because the prowess trigger goes up to 5, doubles to 10, and then you can let the Firebending ability resolve, get 10 additional mana, then flash back the bulk up, trigger prowess again, and then its power will go to 22 essentially on turn 3 with just these 3 cards. You also have 4 mana additionally floating during combat if you wanted to cast, like, I don't know, Lightning Strike or something else, or fling it during combat, I don't know. Something if you want to use extra mana, but just these 3 cards on their own does 22 trample damage on turn 3, which is very powerful. This card seems really good, gives you a bunch of extra mana, hits really hard, so I can imagine this seeing some standard play and in those red pump decks for sure. Alright, so that is the first one. Let's jump into our second combo here. This one is Pioneer legal, I believe, using Haru the Hidden Talent, which is 2 mana for a 1/1, and it says whenever another ally you control enters, you earthbend 1. So this one goes infinite with Retreat to Emeria and Broker's Hideout. You get basically infinite landfall triggers, and you can make infinite 1/1 ally tokens. So if you have Haru out and you have Retreat to Emeria out, and then you play the Broker's Hideout, you have to stack the triggers in a certain way for this to work. So what you want to do is the landfall ability of Retreat to Emeria to resolve first, before the Broker's Hideout ability resolves, the Sacrifice It ability resolves. And so you'll get the ally token, and that'll come to play, and that'll trigger Haru to trigger Earthbend, and then you Earthbend onto the Broker's Hideout. Now what Earthbend does is it creates, it makes the land into a creature with that many +1/+1 counters on it, but it also says when it dies or is exiled, you return it back to the battlefield. So if you Earthbend onto the Broker's Hideout before it's sacrificed, so you Earthbend onto it, then you let that trigger of the sacrifice trigger resolve, it'll then come back into play, and then trigger this loop again. So that comes back into play, triggers landfall, creates the ally token, makes you Earthbend, you Earthbend onto the Broker's Hideout, that ability resolves, you sacrifice it, and you just do that over and over and over again. And so you basically get infinite tokens if you want. I believe you also get infinite life too, because the land gives you life. Gives you infinite landfall if you have anything else with landfall. So yeah, this definitely goes infinite in a lot of ways. And you don't necessarily even need to get another land out of your deck, which you can with the ability, but just the fact that this will die and come back, the Broker's Hideout itself will die and come back every turn, matters. But eventually you can stop the loop by ordering your triggers differently or just choosing all your creatures to get +1/+1 until end of turn on the Retreat to Emeria to stop this loop. But seems pretty decent. I think this is Pioneer legal, I believe, modern as well. You could play this in, maybe Commander potentially, but yeah, let me know if you think this one has some competitive potential with Haru. Okay, so the next one is Infinite Merfolk tokens, and this one works with the new North Pole Patrol, which is 3 mana for a 2/3, has the ability to tap and untap another target permanent you control. This is very similar to Forensic Researcher, the Merfolk from Murders of Karlov Manor, I believe. And this is 3 mana for a 1/3 that also says tap to untap another target permanent you control. Now together, they can tap and untap each other over and over and over again. And with the Deep-Root Pilgrimage, that will create infinite Merfolk tokens. So again, 2 Forensic Researchers. themselves go infinite, but this kind of gives you some redundancy. You could even do this, I guess, if you had like a Land Elves on 1, play the Patrol on 2, Forensic Researcher on 3, and then go off on turn 4 if you had the Pilgrimage. Could be a fast way to get infinite tokens in Standard. All right, this next one is Infinite Buyback combo. I'm calling that Infinite Buyback. You kind of get infinite mana for anything that costs 5, essentially. But the backside of Avatar Aang is Aang, Master of Elements, which says spells you cast cost 1 generic of each less, which can reduce generic costs. So 1 of each color cost, but also can reduce generic costs, which are the colorless costs, essentially, in things. So this can go infinite in a number of ways, as you can imagine. It's kind of like having an omniscience on the board. With, for example, Searing Touch in Commander or older formats, this does 1 damage to anything, but you can buy back it for 4. So this will cost 0 to buy back and cast, so you could do it infinite times to do infinite damage to any player or creature. So you just instantly win the game if you just have this in your hand. In Modern, or I believe Pioneer, Acererak also kind of goes infinite because it kind of keeps bouncing itself over and over again. You can venture into one of the dungeons, lets you kind of venture into it and do damage to your opponent, and you can do that over and over and over again. So those are some other ways. I'm sure there's other buyback cards, other ways, anything that you can kind of play over and over again. Aang will let you do that infinite times. Now, it's kind of hard to potentially flip Aang. It says that if you earthbend, firebend, airbend, and waterbend, then you transform it. But you can kind of get around that with Moon Mist as well. So that's kind of a trick to flip Aang quickly. And then if you have one of these in hand, you just kind of instantly win the game. So that could potentially see some play. Not sure. It seems kind of cool, especially with Moon Mist. I don't know how easy it's going to be to actually be able to bend all those things in one turn, but if you can get this to flip, there's certainly some very powerful stuff that you can do. All right, so now the next one is Ozai, the Phoenix King. This one gives you infinite combat steps. Ozai is a 7/7 with trample, firebending 4, and haste. And if you lose unspent mana, that mana becomes red instead. And Ozai has flying and indestructible as long as you have 6 or more unspent mana. So essentially, this can attack right away, give you 4 extra mana, and then you can use that mana for anything throughout the turn, because I believe this middle line says if when you would lose unspent mana, it becomes red. That means you get to keep the mana to your next step. Tell me if I'm wrong in the comments, but I believe that you can use it during your main phase to cast abilities or spells with it, the mana. So if you have Roaming Throne and you name Human or Noble with it, I believe that also doubles the Firebending because it's a triggered ability. So if you played Roaming Throne on Human, then you play the Ozai, you attack, you actually Firebend 4 twice. So that would give you 8 mana, which would then make it indestructible and flying, which is nice. But then you can use that mana, say, to cast Aggravated Assault and activate it, which says untap all creatures you control after this phase. There's an additional combat phase, followed by an additional main phase, and anytime you could play as a sorcery. But you can play it as a sorcery, I believe, because of the unspent mana carrying over. And then you can just attack again, get 8 more mana, use the Aggravated Assault again, and just go infinite with this and get infinite attacks and just win the game that way. So yeah, that one seems pretty sweet. Maybe a cool commander combo that you could pull off. Maybe even older formats. Not sure how good that is, but it seems like a pretty powerful card overall. Okay, let's go to the next combo, which uses Long Fang, the Grand Secretariat, which is 3 mana for a 2/3. Whenever another creature you control or land you control is put into the graveyard from the battlefield, put a +1/+1 counter on target creature you control. Now, Basking Broodscale, it goes infinite with the equipment that I'm blanking on. Let me know in the comments below. Blade of the something, I believe. Anyways, there's a bunch of infinite combos with this, but this is just another one, which does work in sort of like a mono green deck, which is kind of nice. And maybe kind of a budget combo here too. But it's 2 mana for a 2/2, and it says whenever one or more +1/+1 counters are put on it, you create this 0/1 colorless Eldrazi spawn creature token, which you could sacrifice for a colorless mana. So if you have the Broodscale out, you play the Long Fang, and then you adapt the Broodscale, It puts a +1/+1 counter on it. Then you get an Eldrazi spawn. You can sacrifice that, which then triggers the long thing. Because it says whenever a creature is put into the graveyard, you put a +1/+1 counter. You put the +1/+1 counter on the brood scale. You get another Eldrazi, sacrifice it again, continue the loop. You get infinite, basically colorless mana. It would put infinite +1/+1 counters on the brood scale, and it also gives you like infinite like leaves or enters triggers. If you have any sort of like blood artist effect or something like that, that could just drain them out. Or if you have something that gives it trample or fling the brood scale, you could just win that way. So maybe this has some competitive potential. Again, I think the brood scale already has maybe cheaper options to go infinite with. But if you were wanting like a creature, maybe there's a creature tutor that can get either one of these cards, and it's worth having one long thing in your deck. I don't know. Maybe not. But let me know if you think this has some competitive potential. Okay, let's go to another infinite combat step combo, which is using Sozin's Comet and Hellkite Charger. And it's kind of similar to the other one we talked about before, using Firebending. Sozin's Comet, pretty powerful, gives all your creatures Firebending 5 until end of turn. And Hellkite Charger says whenever it attacks, you can pay 7 mana, and if you do, untap all attacking creatures. After this, there's an additional combat phase. So if you're able to get essentially 7 mana during combat every time you attack, you can get infinite combat steps. So all you really need is one additional like evasive creature, like a Phoenix Chick or something like that. I was thinking something in red, even like an Ornithopter would work, something like that. You cast the Sozin's Comet, attack with the Charger and the other creature, get 10 mana, and then pay the 7, untap, attack again. You get infinite combat steps. You kind of get infinite mana during combat as well, I believe. Although maybe it goes away during the main phase. I'm not sure exactly how that works. But anyways, you get infinite attacks, and that'll probably be enough just to win the game with those cards. Okay, let's go to our next combo, which uses Toph, the first Metal Bender. This is Infinite Mindslaver combo. Toph is pretty cool, pretty exciting card. 4 mana for a 3/3. Non-token artifacts you control are lands in addition to their other types. And it says at the beginning of your end step, you earthbend 2. So basically, you can earthbend onto non-token artifacts, which again gives them the ability that when you sacrifice them, or they die, or they're exiled, they come back to the battlefield. So if you have Toph out, and you have, this does require quite a bit of mana to activate Mindslaver, of course. But if you play Mindslaver, and then you go to your end step, you earthbend onto the Mindslaver, then you sacrifice it for 4, take your opponent's next turn. It'll then come back to the battlefield tapped, but you then control your opponent's next turn. You can do whatever you want with their turn, pass the turn back to you. Then the Mindslaver is still in play. You can do the same thing during your end step and just basically control all your opponent's turns for the rest of the game and pretty easily win from there. So that seems like a pretty cool combo. Again, it requires a lot of mana, so I'm not sure how competitive this would actually be, but you never know. Seems like pretty fun regardless. Maybe a commander kind of combo as well. All right, so let's talk about this Avatar Kuruk coming from this saga, The Legend of Kuruk. The saga is 4 mana for a blue saga. It says scry 2 and then draw a card for the first 2 chapters. And then the third one, you flip it over and it becomes a 4/3 and says whenever you cast a spell, create a 1/1 colorless spirit creature token. It can't block or be blocked by non-spirit creatures. And it also has exhaust to waterbend 20 to take an extra turn after this one. Waterbend, I don't think we've talked about that yet. It lets you tap your creatures to pay the costs of it. So you can tap the spirit tokens to pay the cost, or you can use mana. I think you can also tap artifacts, I believe, for Waterbend. But for this combo, I thought this would be interesting with sort of the infinite web slinging combos that I've been posting on this channel as sort of a win condition for that. So there's like Dazzling Theater, which gives all your creatures Convoke. And then if you have 2 of these 1 mana web slinging cards, there's Arachne, or the other one is the web slinging Spider-Man, I think. You can kind of chain them together over and over again with the Convoke. You just tap them for mana, pick up the other one, cast the other one, and you just keep going over and over again. Now that would trigger the Avatar Kuruk over and over and over again to make basically infinite spirit creature tokens, which is awesome in and of itself. But then also because it has the Waterbend 20 exhaust ability, you could make infinite tokens, and then you could tap them all to take an extra turn, untap, and then attack with them all and just win the game. So that's kind of cool that it's kind of a, I don't know, an instant win, so to speak. You don't have to pass the turn with a bunch of tokens and you're worry about your opponent wrathing your board or anything like that. So maybe that's worth it. I don't know. It's kind of clunky. You know, the card itself is kind of cool because it does scry and maybe help you find some of your pieces. But yeah, maybe worth trying out in standard. Okay, and then last up, we got the infinite airbending combo with Appa and Aang. Really, any two airbending cards that can airbend each other go infinite with Dark Arlok. Dark Arlok is a 2-mana 2/3. It says spells you cast from your graveyard and from exile cost 2 less to cast. And then plotting cards from your hand cost 2 less as well. But being able to reduce the cost of things from exile by 2 works perfectly with airbending, because airbending says you exile something and then you can pay 2 to cast it again. So if you have Appa out, you have Dark Arlok out, and you cast Aang, and you airbend the Appa, then Appa can be cast again for free, and then can airbend Aang, and then Aang can be cast again for free, can airbend Appa. And you just keep going over and over again. Appa also has the ability to make a ally token whenever you cast a spell from exile. So that would create infinite 1/1 ally creature tokens, which is pretty cool as well. This is quite a setup to happen. It doesn't seem super competitive to me, but we'll see what other kind of airbending cards we get in standard. And it also is kind of 3-color, so you know, who knows, but you know, some jank combo potential, I think, for sure. And maybe some competitiveness. I don't know. Let me know in the comments below what you think about infinite airbending, if you have any ideas for that one as well. All right, so that is all 10 of the infinite or instant win combos with Avatar, The Last Airbender, MTG cards. Let me know in the comments below if you have any other ideas for these combos or any other infinite instant win combos or just some cool combos that you're thinking about with these new cards. Really appreciate all the ideas and support for the channel. Big shout out to anyone who has joined my channel membership. If you're curious, there's a link in the description below the video to join the membership and support the channel. Really appreciate it. And let me know if you want any other, you know, Avatar preview videos coming up on the channel or not. I'm not sure if I will do more. I do have a bunch of gameplay videos coming up, so no worries about that. There's still more Through the Omen Path combos that I have coming up on the channel. But if you want more Avatar combo preview videos, let me know below. And also just any other ideas, anything you're hyped about the set. Love to hear your thoughts below. So again, thanks so much for watching. Hope you have a wonderful day, and I will see you in the next video.